Yo, what's up, guys? So talking a little bit about power training. So I got a message here, and we're doing these videos lately, by the way, because I've been getting a lot of messages, and to wait for a podcast to talk about them seems a little ridiculous. So I'm trying my best to answer some of these as we go, put them on YouTube. So if you guys want to reference them or whatnot, you're more than welcome to do so. Um, Talking a little bit about power training, I got a message recently. It was asking me, is power training only for athletes? Good question. Typically we see, oh, that's a power athlete. That power, the word itself, is typically associated with athletes, and I'm like, absolutely not. First and foremost, power trains for anybody and everybody. Recently, there's a study that just came out that looked at the relationship between power capacity and ability, not power capacity, but peak power and its muscular power. Let me get my words right. And longevity. And it found out that if you have a higher muscular power, you have a less likelihood of all cause mortality. In other words, higher muscular power, the probability and likelihood of you living longer might be a little bit more than otherwise. If you start thinking about that, there's a couple things that go into power. One, power typically requires a very fast neural output. Move it quickly, move it with high force, right? That sounds like it's something that we lose when we age, right? We lose the ability to quickly, not necessarily reaction, we do lose reaction time, but quickly have cognitive processing, specific demands on the cognitive and also the muscular system. So it's called neuromechanical coupling. It's how your brain talks to your body. And so having exercises that require lots of power, we're training those specific, not necessarily the specific neurological pathways that are directly related to fast processing speeds, but we're challenging the ability to release a motor engram and have a ballistic outcome, typically in terms of throwing a ball, moving a weight in a certain way. So it has an important factor in regards to longevity. It also obviously, unfortunately, talk about falling. Falling is a risk factor for older adults. I worked with an older adult exercise clinic, and Dr. Frankie, who I worked under, was very interesting. The first time I ever heard this concept was we got to train power with older adults. This age group was from like 40 up to like 95 years old. And he was telling me for two reasons. One, obviously we lose those kind of fast twitch fibers as we age. But secondly, when we fall, we don't fall slowly. If you think about falling, you hit the ground rapidly, you produce force quickly, you have to decelerate. And it's not just stopping, but you got to get back upright again. So having the ability to have good muscular power might be an aspect of not only preventing falls, because maybe you're able to move out of the way of something or you're able to react a little quicker, but also allow you to catch your fall itself. If your foot gets caught on something, you got to move it ahead to catch yourself. If you don't have the ability for muscles to rapidly produce force and movement, then maybe you can't catch and stabilize in time. So there's different aspects involved for power output. And people go, well, Max, how do I train power with an older adult? What? I can't have them do hang cleans. No, you don't have to do the specific or the traditional power movements, but you can do things that are with high levels of intent. So whether that be throwing a medicine ball, pushing a sled, using a Kaiser equipment where it's pneumatic resistance, using bands, using a kettlebell, whatever the modality is, typically it's easiest to introduce it with just the concentric portion first, because typically with anybody, and we're doing power training, right, the injuries come from the eccentric portion. But also if it's an older adult, maybe they don't have the muscle fiber type to handle that eccentric portion yet, and you're a little afraid that overloading it might lead to a higher likelihood of injury. I get it. So maybe having something where we initially start it with a rapid concentric movement, you can always introduce slower eccentrics and build into where you're doing rapid eccentrics and rapid concentrics that are powerful movements for this older adult population, or any population at all, right? It's not just older adults. It has to do with, as we begin to age, it's important for longevity. So being younger and having the ability to produce power is obviously critically important, because if we have larger muscle mass, larger power at a younger age, we're more likely to retain it as we get older. So kind of summarizing it quickly, right? We don't have to just think about power training for older adults. That's not the case at all. Power training can be used for just about anybody, any age bracket, any group, but understanding the modalities that they can use safely is where an athlete might use, a trap bar jump, a weighted jump, a hang clean, but maybe an older adult's not going to use a hang clean. They might use a medicine ball thrown against the wall. They might use a sled, or they might use something that they're more comfortable with. Or even the same thing like a younger athlete. It's kind of funny when you look at older adults and younger athletes. Sometimes they're trained in a very similar manner because It's about training age and also your concerns with them learning the movement pattern and ability to actually withstand some of the loads, assuming they don't have a large training age being an older adult. We're in kind of the assumption of an untrained older adult. And so power's not just for athletes, it's for anybody looking to get healthy. So hopefully that answers the question. Really, that's a good question, by the way. Really appreciate it. And if you got any more questions, feel free to shoot them my way. I'll do my best to get these answered out as soon as I can. Thank you guys and keep listening.